our previous lecture, you have learned poem Have You Earned Your Tomorrow. This poem is written by Edgar Guest. In today's lecture, we are going to discuss poetic devices, figures of speech. The poet Edgar Guest has used a number of poetic devices in his poem, such as alliteration, interrogation, paradox, synecdoche, etc. Now, first, alliteration. And first stanza's first line, is anybody happier? Is anybody happier? Is anybody happier because you passed his way? Because you passed his way. What is meant by alliteration? Alliteration is a figure of speech in which a letter or sound is repeated. Now see carefully this line. In this line, letter H is repeated. Is anybody happier because you passed his way? In this line, letter or sound H is repeated, and so alliteration. And explanation: the sound or letter H has been repeated pleasingly. The letter or sound H is repeated. Throughout this poem, there are so many examples of alliteration. Now again, in the first stanza, see the second line now. Does anyone remember that you spoke to him today? Again in this line, one sound or letter T is repeated. Again, second stanza, we can see the first line. Did you give a cheerful greeting to the friend who came along? Students, look carefully in the second stanza's first line. In this line, the sound G is repeated, and so there is an alliteration. Alliteration is a figure of speech in which there is a repetition of the same sound, and you write your explanation like as the sound or letter H has been repeated for poetic effect. In third stanza again there are one example of alliteration. Now see the third stanza's first line. Can you say tonight, in parting with the days that slipping past? In third stanza's first line, the letter T is repeated. So there is alliteration. Throughout the poem, again in the third stanza and fourth stanza, there are some more examples of alliteration. So the students, you identify the examples of alliteration and write down in your notebook. Next figure of speech, interrogation. Next, interrogation. Interrogation or rhetorical question. Rhetorical question. Next figure of speech, interrogation, rhetorical question. Here I want to say that, have you earned your tomorrow? This poem is decorated with questions now. This poem has 4 stanzas. Each stanza now carried 4 lines, and each stanza carries 2 or 3 questions now. Now see what is meant by interrogation or rhetorical question? When a question is asked not for the sake of getting an answer, but to put a point more effectively, it is called interrogation. Rhetorical question, the poet uses rhetorical question in their poetry only focus on their intention. Means rhetorical question asked not for the sake of getting an answer. Actually the answer is in the question, but to put your point more effectively. This poem is decorated with more questions. First stanza, again in the first line, is anybody happier because you passed this way? Already there for alliteration now. I write this line on the blackboard. Is anybody happier because you passed this way? Again this here is the example of interrogation. Does anyone, first stanza, second line, does anyone remember? Does anyone remember? Remember that you spoke to him today. That you spoke to him today. First stanza, second line. This is again one more example of interrogation. Does anyone remember? Does anyone remember that that you spoke to him today? In the first stanza, fourth line, is there anyone to utter now kindly word of you? This is again here one more example of interrogation now. Means an explanation here we can write. Rhetorical question is asked not for the sake of getting an answer, but to put a point more effectively. You write your explanation like this. A question is asked for emphasis. Explanation. Explanation. A question is asked for emphasis. Is asked for emphasis. Interrogation, rhetorical question. In third stanza, again there are some examples of rhetorical question. Third stanza, fourth line. Does a man whose hopes were fading now with courage look ahead? This is one more example of interrogation now. In the last stanza, again there are some examples of interrogation. Did you waste the day or lose it? Was it well or sorely spent? Again last there is a question mark now. Rhetorical question is asked for only emphasis now. Throughout the poem, again there are some examples of interrogation, means rhetorical question now. Students, find out some examples of interrogation and then note down in your notebook. Next figure of speech, paradox. Next figure of speech, paradox. This figure of speech is depend on controversy, depend on opposite ideas. Next figure of speech, paradox. Paradox is a statement that seems to be absurd or said contradictory but may be true. Now see the second stanza and third line. Second stanza, third line, where you selfish pure, where you selfish pure and simple, where you selfish pure and simple as you rush along the way, as you rush along the way, as you rush along the way. This is an example of paradox. Paradox means is a statement that seems to be absurd or said contradictory but may be true. Now look carefully in this line. Selfish and pure and simple. Selfish, pure and simple. This expression opposite ideas here now, but seems meaningless. Maybe here is paradox. This a statement that seems to be absurd but may be true. Next figure of speech is synecdoche. Next figure of speech, synecdoche. Next figure of speech, synecdoche, and there is a one example of this figure of speech. Now students, look, stanza number 3rd and line number again 3rd. Is a single heart rejoicing over what you did or said? Is a single heart, is a single heart, is a single heart rejoicing, single heart rejoicing over is a single heart rejoicing over what you did or said. What you did or said. This is one example of synecdoche. Is a single heart. Is a single heart rejoicing over what you did or said. What is meant by synecdoche? When a party is used to designate the whole. When a party is used to designate the whole or the whole is used to designate the part. Means synecdoche. When a party is used to designate the whole or the whole is used to designate a part. Now see in this line here is a single heart. Is a single heart rejoicing over what you did and said. Actually in this line the poet here asks now is whether there is someone, his heart is filled with happiness. His heart filled with happiness. Here in this line the part heart. In this line the part heart refers to a whole people. Refers to a whole people. For example, many times we see one headline, India wins the match. One best example of synecdoche. India wins the match. Actually here not India, Indian players. But we can say India wins the match. Synecdoche means when a part is used to designate the whole or the whole is designated to a part. And in this line, the part heart, one body of the part. The heart refers to a whole people. The poet Edgar Guest, in his poem, has used alliteration, then rhetorical question. There are one example of paradox and synecdoche. Now, appreciation. Now we are going to discuss about an appreciation of the poem. Appreciation of the poem. In our 80 marks activity sheet, poetry section, for 40 marks, 10 marks for based on activities and 4 marks for appreciation. This question will be asked in the activity sheet like as: write the appreciation of the given extract based on the following points. And this question for 4 marks. Now see the marking scheme. Appropriateness of theme, marking scheme. Marking scheme. Appropriateness of theme and language. Appropriateness of theme and language. Theme and language. Effectiveness of theme and language features, 2 marks. Then next, explanation and presentation. Your explanation and presentation. Explanation and presentation. And presentation, 1 mark. And third, personal opinion and evaluation of the poem. Personal opinion, and evaluation of the poem. Evaluation of the poem, 1 mark. Means an appreciation. This question for 4 marks, and this question will be asked in the activity sheet like as write the appreciation of the given extract based on the following points, and points are, and means totally appreciation question for 4 marks now. For an appreciation, first point about the poem and title. First point, poem. Have you earned your tomorrow? This is an inspirational poem. This poem is instructive as it teaches moral lesson about the behavior and the kindness of heart. The poem has 4 stanzas. Each stanza has 4 lines, and again each stanza carried 2 or 3 questions now. Rhetorical questions. The poem has many self-answered questions. To motivate the readers to be good with others, to have a good future. This poem is about our good behavior now. Whether they have done anything to improve the life of another human being. Means one of inspirational and instructive poem. Next point, poet. This poem is written by Edgar Guest, famous British-born American poet. Who was popular in the first half of 20th century and is known as people's poet. Edgar Guest known as people's poet for his simple style and optimistic tone of writing, appealing tone of writing. Guest is an American writer of newspaper and magazines. Most important point related to the poet, Edgar Guest is known as people's poet for his simple style, optimistic tone, appealing tone of writing. Take title. Have you earned your tomorrow? The title is a verbal question to the readers to rethink the treatment that they are giving to others. If we do good in present or in past, it will surely make our tomorrow bright. Means significance of the title. Investing something good today means earning everything tomorrow. Means with the help of this title, maybe the poet now aware us here. Investing something good today means earning everything tomorrow. Your good actions, your good behavior, your good conversation now in the present will always be responsible to lead a good life ahead. Next point, theme. The theme of the poem is about the result of our own behavior in the life of others and in our own life. The result of our behavior in the life of others as well as in our own life here. If we encourage others or make them happy now. Means the main theme of this poem here is the poet now here suggests always do good to others. Next point, poetic devices. Poetic devices. Poetic devices, language, style. Poetic devices, language, style. The poet has used so many figures of speech in his poem, such as alliteration, interrogation. There are one more example of paradox and synecdoche now. Special features of the poem. The poet is known for his simple writing now. The poet is known for his simple writing, and this poem is also written in simple style. It has four quatrains. It has four quatrains. Quatrain means it has four quatrains. Quatrain means a stanza of 4 lines. A stanza of 4 lines. This poem has 4 stanzas, and each stanza now carries 4 lines. The poet is known for his simple uplifting style of writing. So this poem is also written in simple style. It has 4 quatrains. Quatrain means a verse of 4 lines. A verse of 4 lines. 4 charanansa kadu. That is a 4 stanza of 4 lines. Now see the rhyme scheme of the poem. Rhyme scheme of the poem. First stanza, and the rhyme scheme is A A B B. Rhyme scheme is depend on the pair of rhyming words. Now students, look carefully in your textbook. Now see the first rhyming pair from the first stanza. Way today. Way today. So we can take alphabet A. And second one pair of the rhyming word through you. So we can take next alphabet B. So the first stanza's rhyme scheme is A B. The rhyme scheme of the poem is first stanza A B. Second stanza's rhyme scheme C. Then third stanza's rhyme scheme D. Second stanza's rhyme scheme C. Then third stanza's rhyme scheme, and the pair of the rhyming words fast, passed, first pair of rhyming words, and next say, ahead, and so rhyme scheme is D. Now see the last concluding stanza. First rhyming pair is Spain, pair of rhyming words, Spain, disconnect. We take next alphabet. F. And last concluding 2 lines and rhyming words pair is say today. Say today. Means again here is A. The rhyme scheme of the poem is first stanza A B. Second stanza C. Then third stanza D E. And last stanza F A. The poet has used a number of poetic devices. Next point, special features, tone and time. Special features. Tone and time. Special features of the poem is repetition of the sound A. One special feature of this poem is the repetition of the sound A. Now just we can see in rhyme scheme now. Repetition of the sound A that appears in first, second and fourth stanza. Means first stanza there is one rhyming pair, wait today. Again in the next second stanza there is one rhyming pair, wait today, and in the last stanza Last stanza there is again one pair of rhyming words. Same today means the repetition of the sound A. The special feature of the poem is repetition of the sound A that appears first, second and fourth stanza, and because of it unifies the text. It unifies the extract. Repetition of every new question. Already this poem is decorated with all the questions now, and the repetition of every new question that creates impact. These infrequently asked questions probe at once treatment to others. Means all questions will challenge to analyze our own behavior. Means one special feature of this poem is repetition of every new question. Again, there are few examples of homonyms in the poem. You know the homonyms? Homonyms means words similar in pronunciation but different in spellings. There are again some examples of homonyms. Next point, values message. Values message. Moral. Message of the poem is straightforward. Very simple one message here, the poet here now given with the help of his poem. Try to make others happy by your behavior. The poet suggests that one should do good to others. Encourage the faded one. Let them remember and talk good about you. And do it for yourself. Means all these actions now do it for yourself, because ultimate reality of the life to everyone to live happy. Therefore, one should consider one's actions and deeds carefully and plan accordingly for a better future. Means most important message through this poem, one should consider one's actions and deeds carefully and plan accordingly for a better future. And last point is your own opinion. Your own opinion about the poem. Your own opinion about the poem. In the last point, dear students, we should write 4 to 5 sentences in your own words. In this point, you must give your own opinion, own views about the poem. And now listen, my own opinion about the poem. Overall, the poem is good. I am very touched by this poem because the poem allows the reader to evaluate own behavior. So with the help of this poem here is the reader, they now evaluate their own behavior, and so I am very touched by this poem because the poem allows the reader to evaluate own behavior. The poem is very simple to understand as it is connected to our